Very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas is on the big GST reforms in India, telling you all that you need to know about how the changes impact you, what they mean for businesses, the reactions and the bigger picture. That's coming up shortly. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Getting you the big developments on the Russia-Ukraine war and the latest from the battlefield. With the Swedish and the US forces teaming up in the Baltic Sea for the coastal assault drills as part of the Archipelago Endeavour exercise, we are getting you the details and the significance. All this and more coming up. A big tax cut ahead of the festival season here in India, and what you get is a big shot in the arm for growth. The Modi government has done just that. Slashed goods and services tax rates on nearly 400 items, from daily essentials to small cars. The government has decided to lower the GST with an aim to fire up festive spending and shield India's economy from the global headwinds. Here's what we are looking at basically. Taxes on most items of everyday use and premiums on insurance policies and vehicles have been cut. The structure is also simpler now. There are only two rate slabs basically, 5% and 18%. Goods and services tax or GST was launched 8 years ago, remember, with the aim of simplifying taxes and reducing the compliance burden. But it was criticized for numerous tax categories, and to simplify this, the GST panel approved the two-rate structure of 5% and 18% instead of the 4 rates. The government panel has approved cuts in consumer items like toothpaste and shampoo to 5% and on small cars, air conditioners and televisions to 18%. GST was also removed from all individual life insurance policies and health insurance. Now, this is India's biggest tax overhaul since GST was rolled out in 2017. On the other side, sin goods like cigarettes, chewing tobacco and luxury cars, their taxation rate now goes up to as high as 40%. Now, the rate cuts will be implemented from September 22nd, that is the first day of the Hindu festival of Navratri. And during the briefing on September 3rd, the Indian Finance Minister said that the reforms are meant for the common man, lower taxes, fewer slabs, simpler compliance. The GST reductions are expected to boost consumption as the Indian economy grew at an unexpectedly higher pace of 7.8% in the quarter to June. Now, this is how the experts have reacted. Citigroup estimating the cuts could lower inflation by over 1 percentage point. That means cheaper goods and more money in the common man's pocket. Economists say this could add as much as 0.6% to India's GDP in the next year. And that's a major boost, especially at a time when consumption already makes up 60% of the economy. And then there's a global backdrop as well. Just weeks ago, US President Donald Trump slapped India with the steepest tariffs of any nation, 50% on Indian goods, which dealt a heavy blow to exports, jobs, the rupee. But with the consumption rate cut, the Indian government is betting big on domestic demand. Just to put this simply, what India does not sell abroad, it wants Indians to buy at home. And markets are already reacting. Automakers and consumer firms rallied, bond yields dipped, which means that investors are not too worried about the fiscal math. Still, the numbers are serious. The GST rate cuts mean a revenue loss of nearly 48,000 crore rupees for the government. But officials say it is sustainable, and economists agree the consumption push will more than offset the shortfall. SBI's chief economist calling it, quote unquote, almost insignificant or even positive, quote unquote, for the fiscal deficit. In the end, this is more than just a tax tweak. It's a statement of intent by the Modi government. India will power growth from within, no matter the global headwinds. And as the festival season kicks in, all eyes now on whether lower prices translate into higher spending, and whether Prime Minister Modi's big bet on GST reforms delivers the growth dividend that India needs. Switching gears for now, Vladimir Putin signaling his next move from Beijing, promising a deadly, shifting assault across Ukraine. Ukrainian defenders bracing for a storm as Kiev's European ally warned Russia is gearing up to mount a new offensive. Speaking in Paris, Zelensky warning the West that in 2 years, Russians will have many missiles with a range of 5,000 kilometers. The sea will not protect anyone in a way the ocean will not protect anyone. Our next report backing in all these developments.
Across Ukraine's battered front lines, there's terror in the trenches and a growing sense of dread in war rooms from Warsaw to Kyiv. Ukraine's ranks are dangerously thin. Infantry brigades tell of entire platoons missing. The weapon stock is also running dry, while Russian attacks darken the skies overhead. The battlefield is evolving. Conditions worsen month by month. The front remains static in places, but Russian missiles and unmanned aircraft now strike with punishing density, hitting railways, blacking out cities, and paralyzing vital supply lines. The Ukrainian port city of Odessa is the latest to bear the brunt of Russian assault. Intelligence agencies across the West are watching with growing fear as Vladimir Putin masses his forces, readying a new brutal offensive. Speaking from Beijing, Putin projected an aura of absolute confidence, boasting that his army is advancing at will as Ukrainian ranks are empty.
Мне кажется, вот в чем все дело.
This is evidence of the fact, as not only we believe but also, by the way, Western experts do as well, that the reserves of the Ukrainian armed forces are becoming smaller and smaller, and combat-ready, so to speak, units are staffed today by no more than 47–48%. The situation for them is already at the most critical point. But, nevertheless, combat operations are a complex and cruel thing, so no predictions should be made here. But the analysis is exactly the one I just described.
European leaders and Ukrainian President Zelensky are meeting in Paris to agree on security guarantees for Kyiv in the event of a peace accord with Russia to end the war.
Today we have 26 countries that have formally committed themselves. Several others still have to clarify their position, but 26 countries have committed themselves to deploying troops in Ukraine as a reassurance force, or to being present on the ground, at sea, or in the air to provide this reassurance to Ukrainian territory and to Ukraine the day after the ceasefire or peace.
The guarantees by the so-called Coalition of the Willing, which remain under wraps but are expected to include ramped-up training for the Ukrainian army and deployment of troops by some European states, have angered Russia.
Ukraine is a sovereign nation. If Ukraine wants to have security guarantee forces in Ukraine to support a peace deal, it's up to them. Nobody else can decide about it. And I think we really have to stop making Putin too powerful.
European leaders are concerned that Russia will mount a new offensive on Ukraine. Zelensky says that Russia had relocated 100,000 soldiers to the front line outside the city of Pokrovsk, a Ukrainian-held stronghold in the eastern Donetsk region, which Russia has been trying to capture for months. Zelensky told his European counterparts that the threat from Moscow isn't to Kyiv alone, and European nations could be Putin's next targets. The next few days are important, as Russia is sharpening the attack while the West is trying to formulate a clear strategy to stop the Russian forces. Bureau Report, WION The World.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत के अभियान को हम सब आगे बढ़ाएं।
US President Donald Trump has thrown the world's trade order into chaos in a way by unleashing tariff shockwaves at a scale rarely seen before. With the tariffs hitting 50% on Indian goods, a country Washington once quoted as its key strategic ally, Trump's America First crusade is now upending decades of partnership in a way. New Delhi was among the first to negotiate and offer concessions, only to see Trump steamroll ahead, slapping on tariffs that hit Indian exports from cars and textiles to jewelry and electronics. Now, with the US courts questioning the rationale behind the tariffs, the Trump administration arguing that the hefty tariffs on India are a part of his efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Last week, a US appeals court ruled that many of Trump's tariffs, which have upended global trade, were illegal, but had allowed the tariffs to remain in place to give the administration time till mid-October to take it up to the Supreme Court. The Trump administration responded that removing tariffs would thrust America to the brink of an economic catastrophe. Trump says the US might have to unwind trade deals it reached with the European Union, Japan, South Korea, among others, if it loses a Supreme Court tariffs case, and warned basically that this move would put a huge dent on the US economy. Trump's justification coming as the US president faces mounting pressure at home. With his approval rating sliding, American consumers bracing for higher costs, Trump has boldly claimed that tariff revenue could erase America's staggering $37 trillion national debt. However, Treasury data revealing that the income generated falls dramatically short of even covering the monthly interest payments. Swedish and US forces have teamed up in the Baltic Sea, staging coastal assault drills as part of the Archipelago Endeavour exercise. The training near Stockholm tested amphibious warfare skills, drone technology, and NATO's readiness in one of Europe's most contested waters. Take a look.
We are able to give some knowledge regarding that. And with the US Marines, they are giving us, for example, development of unmanned systems where they have come a bit further than we had.
I think we understand the strategic importance of the Baltic area. I think with Sweden joining NATO, that just helps focus us even more in terms of how we will operate together.
Azerbaijan has accused India of blocking its bid to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Its president reportedly told his Pakistani counterpart on the sidelines of the Tianjin SEO summit that New Delhi is seeking quote-unquote revenge against Baku, and he went further congratulating Islamabad on what he called its victory over India and pledged continued support for Pakistan. So far, India has not officially reacted to these allegations, but given Azerbaijan's recent conduct, such a move by New Delhi would hardly come as a surprise. In fact, reports suggest Russia too may have quietly approved of keeping Baku out, frustrated as Moscow and Tehran both are with Azerbaijan in recent years. The SEO summit this year was dominated by Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, but Baku's complaint is now forcing attention onto a different geopolitical subplot. One that exposes just how Azerbaijan's tilt towards Pakistan has complicated its relationship with India. And to understand this, we need to revisit history. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, most of its successor states inherited cordial ties with India, but Azerbaijan was an exception. Diplomatic ties were established in 1992, and India opened its mission in Baku in 1999. But Azerbaijan waited till 2004 to reciprocate in New Delhi. Even today, the ties remain thin, with no high-level visits in over 2 decades. Azerbaijan has deepened its ties with Pakistan, aided by Turkey. Defense deals became central, and Pakistan trained Azeri military personnel. A $1.6 billion contract will also see Islamabad supply 8 JF-17C Block 3 fighter jets to Azerbaijan, and Pakistan's largest export order. Both countries hold joint drills with Turkey, and during the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war, Armenia accused Pakistan of sending fighters to support Baku, though those claims remain unverified. Now, coming back to India, here's where India drew the line. It happened when Azerbaijan began publicly echoing Pakistan's lies on Kashmir. Joint declarations regularly contained clauses voicing support for Islamabad. Kashmir Day was also observed in Baku. And then after the Pahalgam terror attack this year, while the entire world came to India's support, condemning the Pakistan-sponsored terror, Azerbaijan condemned India's response, Operation Sindoor. Baku wrote directly to Pakistan's president expressing solidarity. Azerbaijan's media has also since carried hostile rhetoric against India and against India's growing defense ties with Armenia. What has been India's approach? Restraint. Despite its close partnership with Armenia, New Delhi has never proclaimed support for Armenia's claim over Nagorno-Karabakh, preferring neutrality. Nor has India ever condemned Azerbaijan for purchasing arms from Pakistan. And this is despite the obvious risks of financing what New Delhi knows is Islamabad's terror industry. And as reports show, Azerbaijan's anti-India rhetoric damages ties despite benefiting more from relations. From 2005, bilateral trade grew from $50 million to $958 million in 2024. And that trade is tilted in Baku's favor. India exports $224 million and imports $734 million. Just last year, in fact, over 2 lakh Indian tourists made up 10% of Azerbaijan's arrivals. And Bollywood and regional films also add major revenue for Azerbaijan's economy. Last year, India's Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, ONGC Videsh, signed a $60 million deal to raise its stake in Azeri oil fields in the Caspian Sea and the linked pipeline. Yet at Tianjin, the Azeri president doubled down, congratulating Pakistan on the military confrontation with India and promising to quote-unquote prioritize ties with Islamabad. It is against this backdrop that his complaint about SCO membership must be seen. If India did indeed block Azerbaijan's entry, which there is no way to confirm at this point, it would only be natural in a way. SCO decisions are taken by consensus, and no member would allow hostile actors into the bloc. Also, in the joint declaration at the SCO summit this week, India was able to secure the backing of all the members, which includes Pakistan's all-weather ally China, in condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. And the real question then is whether Baku is ready to do some soul-searching. Its reflex to see friendship with Pakistan as a license for hostility towards India has only made its diplomacy narrow-minded, not stronger. And until that mindset changes, Azerbaijan may find that antagonism towards India carries a price that it can ill afford to pay. And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. What's the story behind Israel's new spy satellite? The message it sends out, getting you all that shortly. For the first time ever, FIFA is introducing something called dynamic pricing. We tell you all that you need to know. And we're also focusing on the rise of an online romance scam and telling you more about what happened in Japan. You don't want to miss this. All this and more coming up. A hot mic moment of sorts has set off quite a buzz on the sidelines of a military parade in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Russian President were overheard, in a way, discussing organ transplants as a means of prolonging life. Over the last several years, in fact, rapid advancements in science have enabled transplanted organs to last longer, thereby enabling individuals to live longer than expected. But transplants are fraught with risks. And currently, people who get a new organ take strong anti-rejection drugs called immunosuppressants for life. Now, these are meant to counter the side effects caused by a transplanted organ, basically. But a new gene editing tool has raised hopes of developing tailor-made organs. Scientists are experimenting on pigs with a gene editing tool, the inventors of which won the 2020 Nobel in Chemistry. Simply put, this gene editing tool could help scientists develop organs for transplant as per the individual needs. And these rejection-free organs, in a way, promise to make transplanted organs more compatible, thereby extending human life. Another avenue being explored is growing brand new organs using human cells, particularly stem cells, which have the ability to grow into any type of cell or tissue found in the body. Now, if these experiments succeed, it may not be long before multiple organ transplants take human life expectancy to above 100 or even 150 years for that matter. Amid an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, Israel continuing its military offensive, inching closer to the heart of Gaza City. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency saying Israeli forces killed at least 44 people on Thursday, including 25 in Gaza City, where the military has increased bombardments ahead of a planned offensive. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians continue to be displaced as Israeli strikes flatten temporary camps. Over 63,000 Palestinians have been killed so far, hunger and starvation also running rampant, with the UN confirming famine in the enclave. Israeli tanks and soldiers are massing along the Gaza border as the Israeli military prepares for a decisive assault on Hamas and its network of underground tunnels. Caught in the middle, basically, are millions of Palestinians who are witnessing an endless cycle of death and mourning.
They want to exterminate the Palestinian people. They want to exterminate and uproot us. We won't die. And if all Gaza is dead, there are 6 million Palestinians abroad who will come back. And if they want to displace us from here, we are not leaving. They can hit us with a nuclear bomb to be finished. But for us to leave this country, we are not leaving.
And pressure is mounting on the Israeli Prime Minister. Meanwhile, thousands of Israelis held a protest rally outside the Prime Minister's residence. Scuffles broke out between the protesters and the police as demonstrators called on Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza.
We need to get the hostages back. The government needs to get them back. It's their job to get them back, and we've been waiting way too long. It's been almost 700 days that they've been suffering there. They are starving, they are dying, and they have to come home.
But Netanyahu has vowed to keep pushing ahead in Gaza. Israeli leaders, including the defense minister, have warned Hamas to either accept Israel's conditions to end the war or see Gaza City become like Rafah. The comments came after Hamas declared that it was willing to free all hostages in one go to end the war. In a statement, Netanyahu's office laid out 5 conditions for ending the war. This includes release of all hostages, disarming of Hamas, demilitarization of Gaza, and establishment of Israeli security control and a civilian administration in Gaza. Israel's warning to Hamas coming a day after US President Donald Trump warned Hamas to release all hostages. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote that if Hamas released all remaining hostages, then things might change rapidly. Amid all of this, Israeli media reports suggesting that the IDF chief basically is planning to warn the Netanyahu government that there will be no option but to impose military rule over the Gaza Strip if it goes ahead with the Gaza City takeover plan. Reports suggest that Zamir is opposed to the move and will warn the Netanyahu government about the military consequences. Shifting focus now to Israel, that has launched a new spy satellite into orbit. Its defense minister has said that the satellite sends out a clear message to the country's enemies that they are under constant surveillance. The satellite will now be operated by the Israeli Army Unit 9900, responsible for visual and geospatial intelligence. Take a look. UK parliamentary authorities have launched a probe after a mobile phone was reportedly hidden in the House of Commons to make sex noises during Prime Minister Keir Starmer's questioning. As per the Times report, the report said the phone was planted near the front bench and was intended to go off as Keir Starmer faced Kemi Badenoch in the Commons. The phone placement reportedly was part of a prank, and it was due to play a sexually explicit audio recording. The phone was found during a routine sweep before the Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, reportedly. The visuals of the phone being planted have not surfaced as of now, and the incident pointing towards a major breach of parliamentary security at the same time. It is one of the biggest attempted breaches after the one witnessed in 2019, where a group of semi-naked climate change protesters interrupted a House of Commons Brexit debate and glued their hands to the glass of the public gallery. Shifting focus, North India is facing the wrath of incessant rainfall. Red alerts have been issued for several regions. In fact, Punjab is experiencing its worst floods since 1988. Heavy rainfall raising water levels in rivers, streams, rivulets across Jammu and Kashmir. Himachal Pradesh has declared itself a disaster hit state. My colleague Rahisha Sehgal getting you all the details.
So as monsoon fury continues in India, the northern region of the country remains badly hit. Incessant rainfall has lashed several parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, with the Indian Weather Agency also issuing red and orange alerts across the region. The water level in River Jhelum and other areas has crossed the danger mark of 21 feet. Tavi and Chenab rivers are also flowing above the danger mark. Officials have further warned the situation may worsen and people are now urged to stay away from water bodies. Dal Lake dwellers and houseboat owners are also now being advised to perhaps take all required precautions and measures at this point of time. Cloudburst, road closure, train halts, school shutdowns, overflowing rivers and submerged villages have brought life to a standstill across Jammu and Kashmir in the past few days. Connectivity is hampered as major highways remain shut amid heavy rainfall. The IMD has also warned of cloudbursts and landslides and even mudslides, particularly in hilly and other vulnerable areas, urging people to monitor weather updates closely. Now, Punjab is facing its worst floods in nearly 4 decades. The swollen Satluj, Beas and Ravi rivers have inundated large swathes of the North Indian state. Heavy rains have claimed at least, like I mentioned, 37 lives and causing severe damage to farmlands and infrastructure as well. All 23 districts of Punjab have been officially declared flood hit. Not just that, around 1,700 villages have been affected, and that's according to the government of Punjab. Gurdaspur is the worst hit amongst the 1,700 villages which have been severely damaged. Firozpur, Amritsar, Hoshiarpur, Kapurthala and Sangrur are struggling as well. The Punjab government says that 1.58 lakh hectares of land has been affected due to the incessant rainfall in Punjab. Incessant rains over the last few days have triggered landslides across several parts of the state. A landslide in Kullu's Akhara Bazaar destroyed several houses as well. Now, since the onset of monsoon in Himachal on June 20th, there have been at least 95 flash floods and 45 cloud bursts and 127 major landslide incidents. And this is according to the official data. The state has also suffered losses to the tune of 3,690 crore rupees. The monsoon so far, critical Indian regions are also affected by continuous heavy rainfall. In Madhya Pradesh, Shipra River's water levels have also seen major significant rise. It's clearly been swollen, as you can see. Temples near the Ram Ghat in Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh have submerged due to heavy rainfall. Authorities have advised devotees to avoid the river's depth for bathing. And moving to India's national capital region, Delhi and NCR remain drenched as unusually heavy showers upend normal life here in New Delhi. In Gurugram, waterlogging paralyzed traffic with several city roads and underpasses completely submerged and inundated. In Delhi, people living along the Yamuna floodplains have been moved out as water inundated homes. Yamuna water levels fluctuate dangerously close the danger mark. Well, that's the latest on the monsoon fury here in India.
The golden glow is returning to one of the most beloved landmarks in France. High above, the gilders are painstakingly restoring the statue of the Virgin and Child. The Good Mother that watches over the port from the Notre Dame de la Garde Basilica. Take a look. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is less than a year away. Millions of football fans across the world will soon be vying for tickets for the world's biggest sporting event. But for the first time ever, FIFA is introducing something called dynamic pricing. Let's tell you more. To put it simply, it is a system that changes the ticket prices based on the demand in real time. It uses artificial intelligence to monitor how many people are trying to buy tickets at any given moment. And when the demand is high, prices go up. And when the demand drops, prices go down, which means that fans could end up paying a lot more during peak times. The practice has become common at sporting events in the US, but it's also faced heavy criticism. Next year's World Cup will take place in the United States, Canada and Mexico. Fans will have their first chance to secure tickets for the tournament during the Visa pre-sale draw on September 10th. It will run until September 19. Tickets for group stage matches will start at $60 with pricing for later stages, including the final, reaching up to $6,730. The pre-sale will be followed by additional sales phases later in the year, and sales will be capped at 4 tickets per person per match. No person will be able to purchase more than 40 for the totality of the tournament. In fact, FIFA plans to introduce an official resale platform later this year, allowing the ticket holders to resell their tickets securely. A total of 6.5 million tickets are expected to be sold for the 2026 World Cup. But the dynamic pricing model could hurt the average fan while lining FIFA's pockets. This tournament will be historic, featuring a record 104 matches. And the first time 48 teams will compete, up from the usual 32. Shifting focus now to Portugal. At least 17 people dead after a funicular cable rail car in the capital derailed and crashed into a building. Dozens are injured, some of them critically. Many among them are foreign nationals. But the question we're asking is, just how safe are these streetcars to begin with? Viral images online showing a bright yellow carriage overturned, heavily damaged, and engulfed in smoke. Local reports saying a cable came loose along the railway's route, causing it to lose control and crash into a nearby building.
For those at the bottom, they were amazing. They were so good. If you could tell them in Portuguese.
In fact, the tragedy happened in a busy area connecting Lisbon's downtown with its upper quarter, creating panic and chaos among the pedestrians and also shocking survivors and witnesses. Listen to this.
Well, when I saw the other funicular going down, I shouted to my wife, "We're all going to die here," because I thought the elevator was coming to hit this one. That's because it has a high speed. You've seen that elevation from up there, about 200 or so meters unlocked from up there to down there. It goes at a crazy speed.
Authorities say among those injured are 4 Portuguese nationals, 2 Germans, 2 Spanish citizens, and 1 person each from France, Italy, Switzerland, Canada, Morocco, and South Korea. Portugal is observing a day of mourning with flags flying at half-mast in Lisbon. The Prime Minister of Portugal expressed grief, calling it one of the biggest tragedies to hit the country.
Portuguese people, since the immediate priority was to rescue the victims, the competent authorities will quickly carry out the necessary investigations to determine the cause of this tragic accident, including the Judicial Police, which has been involved from the outset, and the Office for the Prevention and Investigation of Aircraft Accidents and Air and Rail Accidents.
E o Gabinete de Prevenção e Investigação de Acidentes com Aeronaves e Acidentes Aéreos.
Streetcars or trams have long been regarded a passenger favorite for both their convenience and also their nostalgic value. In Lisbon, streetcars practically serve as the city's lifeline and are an iconic tourist attraction as well, drawing millions of passengers for a quick ride. Questions now being raised on its safety features. Some of these streetcars are over 140 years old, by the way. They are harnessed by steel cables which are prone to snapping, either due to technical glitches or inclement weather conditions. They do not always navigate level roads, but also hilly areas, both up and downhill, along the curved pathways. The larger message here is these streetcars need urgent monitoring, repairing, and overhauling if required. AI chatbots and their impact on children's mental health is a matter of grave concern for parents. And now the US Federal Trade Commission is zeroing in on artificial intelligence chatbots, demanding answers from the tech giants. According to a report by Wall Street Journal, OpenAI, Meta, and other industry heavyweights reportedly would be asked to turn over your secrets, details of their safety protocols, and explain the unseen impact on the most vulnerable children. In fact, the move has reportedly got a green light from the White House. Officials see it as the first step towards regulatory crackdown that could reshape the future of artificial intelligence. Concerns have been mounting for months. Parents and child safety advocates warning that chatbots powered by vast data sets and addictive design risk leading children into troubling conversations around violence, romance, even self-harm. The tech firms that have been in the line of fire in a way over the impact on children and the questions that have been raised have been taking some actions. OpenAI is designing teen accounts with stricter guardrails. Meta is clamping down on AI discussions around dangerous topics. But critics say and ask whether it's too little, too late. In fact, the technology has already sprinted far ahead of regulation, leaving families in the dark about risks in a way. Lawmakers are under growing pressure to act, yet even they admit the terrain is evolving faster than legislation can actually keep pace. The future of digital childhood is up for debate, with Silicon Valley's power on the line. China and the United States are locked in a tech war that seems to be intensifying with each passing day. In the latest, China has ramped up its AI agent challenge to American players with its latest entrant, Tencent. According to a report by the South China Morning Post, China has advanced its AI agentic tools such as Tencent and ByteDance to take on US firms like AutoGen and OpenAI. Tencent's AI department was released on Microsoft open source platform GitHub just last week. The move was soon followed by ByteDance, the owner of TikTok. What exactly are these tools really? They are basically frameworks required to make autonomous, intelligence-driven softwares used to deploy and manage AI agents that help the users achieve the desired goals in the digital space. And this marks a defining moment in China's strides in the field of AI and its push for self-sufficiency in the face of US dominance. One which could very well set the tone for what's going to be the future of the internet in a way. In recent times, the China-US tech rivalry is no longer limited to the question of superiority, but that of governance, with both wanting the largest pie. Not just that, while America's export restrictions on advanced semiconductors aimed at curbing China's AI growth and development, China saw this as an opportunity to bounce back stronger. And the results are evident. As China seeks to foolproof its AI pitch with domestic innovation at its heart while carrying strong appeal to countries in the global south as well, experts suggest in the coming days, China's AI strategies, with special emphasis on open access and shared benefits, are only expected to include more stakeholders and emerge as an attractive alternative to US models. What if love vibes end up becoming menacing traps designed to siphon off your life savings? An 80-year-old Japanese woman lost around 1 million yen or close to $6,700 to an online scammer posing as her love interest, one who also had a rather unique story to spin around it. Through online chats, the fraudster reportedly managed to convince the old lady that he was in fact an astronaut in distress, stranded in space, and in need of funds to buy oxygen. According to the police, the man whom she met on social media in July capitalized on the vulnerability of the woman and her circumstances, reportedly fostered a romantic connection with her, only to swindle thousands of dollars. Police describing this as a romance scam, which is increasingly targeting the country's old and lonely. In fact, it has issued an advisory asking people to report anyone from social media demanding cash or any form of payment. As per the World Bank, Japan is home to the world's second oldest population after Monaco, and they are soft targets for a wide range of scams, starting from insurance, loan, or pension frauds, or to people even posing as fake relatives. And Japan is not alone. In recent times, romance scams have emerged as a growing global menace. According to the National Police Agency of Japan, over 3,000 romance scams were reported in the first 11 months of 2024, more than double the number in 2023. In the UK, 1 in 10 adults, or nearly 6 million people, have been reportedly targeted or know someone who has been targeted by a romance scam. In the US, over 64,000 Americans lost a combined amount of over $1 billion in romance scams in 2023. over $1 billion. In fact, India also has reportedly featured among the top 3 countries on the list of the number of new romance scams. Profiles opened in 2024. Over 3/4 of Indians encountered fake profiles and AI-generated photos on dating websites, apps, and social media. Another report from Barclays suggesting that men are, in fact, more susceptible when it comes to the matters of the heart, shelling out a lion's share for scammers who play on emotions. A word of caution for those under duress: brace your heart and protect your money, and reach out for help if required when in doubt. Shifting focus, earlier we've been telling you about a serious problem plaguing the UK, the rising obesity among children. And aiming to tackle that, the UK government has come up with a solution in a way, cutting down sugar and caffeine levels from where the youth seems to be getting the most. Basically, the government is seeking to ban the sale of popular energy drinks for those under 16 in England. And as per the European Food Safety Authority, some names that fall under such a category include some of the drinks that are highly caffeinated and provide consumers with strong sugar rush, reportedly. Now, most of these branded drinks are easily available in shops, restaurants, cafes, vending machines, even online, and are quite handy among teenagers especially. So instead of a blanket ban, what the UK government is proposing is to limit the caffeine intake to just 150 milligram per litre of the drink, sold to anyone under the age of 16. Across all retail outlets. In the UK, up to 1/3 of teenagers are thought to consume energy drinks frequently, sometimes several times in a week. And the move by the government could prevent obesity in up to 40,000 children, reportedly. Not just that, when it comes to health issues among teenagers, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders featuring as common issues. What about tea and coffee then, which too contain considerable amount of caffeine, or soft drinks for that matter? Experts estimate consuming one energy drink equals having 2 cups of coffee or more, and can lead to headaches, irritability, poor concentration, which could eventually lead to lack of focus in studies and a poor academic performance. And the UK minister suggests banning energy drinks could help improve behavior, learning and efficiency. However, enforcing a ban on energy drinks is easier said than done, as it not only affects schoolgoers or those with access to proper education, but also those from deprived communities. Back in 2018, major supermarkets across Britain voluntarily stopped selling energy drinks to those under 16. However, this did not prevent smaller shops from continuing to sell them to children. And this is just half the problem in a way. What about processed, packaged, canned or junk food packed with saturated fat, protein, carbohydrates, which further feeds into the country's obesity crisis? Tackling one aspect of it without addressing the rest will also lead to questions. Apart from dietary habits, socio-economic aspects, cost of living issues and leading sedentary lifestyles with a lack of physical exercise must also be factored in to nip the obesity problem in the bud. And we're getting you some sad news as we end this edition of Gravitas. The fashion industry has lost a giant today. Fashion legend Armani, king of a high-end lifestyle empire, has passed away. He was 91 years old. In fact, his company released a statement saying he died surrounded by his loved ones. The best-known contemporary designer, Armani opened his fashion house in Milan in 1975. quickly rising to the top of the industry and going on to dress the stars. The group said that his funeral will be private, but well-wishers can pay respects beforehand at a funeral chamber open on Saturday and Sunday in Milan. Armani had cancelled his menswear show in Milan this year due to health reasons. He also missed the Paris Armani Pride show on doctor's orders. In fact, the Italian icon was credited with inventing red carpet fashion, but also moved into a younger and less expensive range through Emporio Armani and opened luxury hotels. His death came just weeks ahead of celebrations marking 50 years of his label. Italy's culture minister, meanwhile, led the tributes, paying homage to what he called a leading figure in Italian culture, who was able to transform elegance into a universal language. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
This week on the West Asia Post, Iran is turning to China, seeking to rebuild its missile arsenal after the war with Israel. Yemen's Houthis are striking back hard. Launching what they call revenge attacks on Israel. And inside Israel, reservists are being called up again for a war that is tearing the nation apart.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, every Friday at these times, only on WION. World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is